In India, there was a man who had the boldest claim ever. He said he had lived for over 70 years without any food or water. Now, before you call me a raving lunatic and click off, wait, because it turns out there are several doctors who believe his claim. Is this monk really magical, or did he somehow fool the doctors? Let's find out. Our super monk in question is Prahlad Jani, also known locally in India as Mataji or Chunriwala Mataji. Prahlad Jani was born in 1929, and according to himself, he left home to live in a jungle at the age of 7. And at the age of 12, a big event happened in his life. According to Jani, he was approached by 3 Hindu goddesses who asked him to follow them. When Jani asked how he would get food and water if he followed them, they replied that he won't need such things any longer. Jani says that then he was given an elixir that seeps through a hole in his palate, the top of his mouth, and that alone was enough to meet his nutritional needs. Since then, Jani claimed he didn't eat any food or drink any water till his death in 2020 at the age of 90. Since his experience, Jani started to dress like a female devoted to a Hindu goddess. He wore a red sari and jewelry, as well as flowers in his long hair. He also lived as a hermit in the forests of Gujarat in India. Quite a lifestyle, I'd say. Now, here is the thing. A claim like this is hard to believe. Jani's followers believed him, but for the scientific community, more solid evidence was needed than his word. And what better way to check the validity of this claim than to test the man himself? One figure stepped forward to conduct this task. Sudhir Shah. Shah was a neurologist at Sterling Hospitals in Ahmedabad. The first test took place in 2003, and it lasted 10 days. Sudhir Shah placed Jani in a sealed room, and he was closely monitored. The results after the experiment were more than surprising. Shah found that Jani did not pass any urine or stool throughout the 10 days inside the sealed room. However, his body did produce urine, which was later absorbed by his bladder on its own. During the test, Jani also lost some weight. Another interesting thing they found was that Jani had a hole in his palate, just as he had claimed before. Everything seemed to be favoring Jani's claim. So was he really surviving without any food or water? Well, Shah decided he needed another round of tests. In 2010, Shah got ready to conduct another test on Jani. This time around, he was joined by 35 other researchers from the Indian Defense Institute of Physiology and Allied Sciences. Some other organizations also pitched in, so clearly the curious case of the Breatharian monk was gaining a lot of traction. This next test was again conducted at the Sterling Hospitals, and this time it lasted for 15 days. Jani was constantly under observation from CCTV cameras and the researchers. The only time he was allowed to leave the room was to walk in the sun and to undergo medical tests. And according to the researchers, Jani did not eat, drink, or relieve himself. He underwent several medical tests such as scans, medical examinations, and blood tests to determine the truth. All of them came out normal. One thing the researchers found strange was that Jani had elevated levels of leptin and ghrelin. Both of these are appetite-related hormones, which the researchers think were increased because Jani has adapted to starvation and water restriction to an extreme level. In 2017, the researchers conducted the last test on Jani before he passed away. It was a brain imaging study conducted to find out the size of Jani's pineal and pituitary glands. Once again, the results were strange, to say the least. The scans showed that Jani's pineal and pituitary glands were the same order as that of a 10-year-old. Aside from the results of these scans, none of the findings from these tests were ever published in a scientific journal. Aside from that, allegedly, the 2010 study was never fully made public since the Indian military had been involved. Now, looking at all this evidence, it becomes pretty difficult to figure out how it is even possible that Jani was able to live so long without any food or water. For the followers of Jani, these studies just prove his supernatural ability. But turns out, that a large majority of the scientific community is not on board. There is a lot of criticism pointing out problems with the tests. First of all, scientists pointed out the sheer impossibility of surviving for 70 years without food or water. A human can at most survive without food for a couple of months, and water is a different matter. Without water, a human has no hope of surviving beyond 3 days, maybe a week if you are lucky. So Jani's case goes against everything we know about human physiology. Scientists also pointed out that Jani lost weight during the tests. That was strange, since if Jani had not eaten or drank water for 70 years and still lived, his body should not be losing weight at all. Otherwise, he would have lost all body mass ages ago. So why was he losing weight now? The only difference during the test was that Jani was being observed. This really put a huge question mark on the validity of his claim. And then there were the major problems with the tests conducted on Jani. As you know, the biggest proponent of the tests was Dr. Sudhir Shah, a neurologist and head of Ahmedabad's Sterling Hospitals. With that many qualifications under his belt, he should be a very reliable researcher, right? Well, apparently not. Shah is a deeply religious Jain, and he is a strong proponent of bringing the imperfect science of medicine in line with the Jainist superscience through research. And turns out most of the researchers involved in the tests on Jani were also Jain. Some experts think that religious zeal may have clouded the eyes of these researchers during the tests, and that was not the only evidence that Shah may not have been an impartial researcher. Turns out, Shah does have a history of trying to prove that humans can survive without food or water. Before Jani, he had another person as his poster child, Hira Ratan Manek. Manek had claimed to survive by absorbing sunlight without any need to eat, only drinking some water and coffee. Shah conducted tests on him for about a year and then confirmed that Manek survived without food by consuming sunshine. Then, in 2011, Manek was caught eating food in San Francisco, not only ruining his claim, but also putting a big question mark on the research of Dr. Shah. Another major party involved in the whole research was the Indian Defense Institute of Physiology and Allied Sciences, or DIPAS for short, which financed the whole project. DIPAS director Govindasamy Ilavajagan is just as enthusiastic about Jani's case as Dr. Shah. Here is the issue. DIPAS has been an ardent protector of the research and tests conducted on Jani. It has prevented other scientists and experts from investigating how the research was conducted and what fail-safes were in place during the tests to prevent Jani from consuming food or water. From what we do know of the tests, there are a lot of problems with the process. The officially released CCTV footage shows Jani would move out of the camera's view since there were blind spots. He could also meet with his devotees, which made it difficult to determine if someone passed any food or water to him. Even more damning was the fact that Jani was allowed to gargle water, giving him ample time to sneakily drink some water. His bathing activities were not monitored either, giving him a potential opportunity to pee and drink water. Jani had also been allowed to leave the room where he was being monitored to go and walk in the sunlight. Once again, he was not properly observed during these walks, so clearly there is a lot of room for doubt when it comes to verifying Jani's claim of surviving for over 70 years without food or water. The tests conducted on him do not account for everything. Impartial researchers who asked to join the observation were denied access, and the doctor in charge may have had his own personal beliefs clouding his judgment. What are your thoughts? Do you believe in Jani's claims, or do you agree with the experts that such a feat is impossible? Let me know in the comments. While you are at it, please be sure to like, share, and subscribe.